Don't you just love my camera work here? Oh my god, now see, now that is adorable too. The bats on stripes. There's just too much adorable Halloween stuff around, isn't there, folks? This would be really, really adorable. Okay. This would be great. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm getting so many ideas, I'm getting ahead of myself. And I can't do that. I actually just have to sit down and do the thing. Briefly here again, I wanted to show how this little guy turned out. The top is a little uneven because I was working with the kind of gnarly line of this. Gnarly, I guess that's a great word. I've been calling this project a mystery project in some of the titles and the descriptions because, surprise, I don't want you to know what it is. But initially I was calling this project in my own writings just Patchwork. So Patchwork is okay to be uneven, it's okay to be gnarly. This does need another iron to make it go flat, make it stay nice and flat. And I will probably do a stay stitch here along the bottom, just so this whole end stays flat and secure. This actually is too much material. Yet again, I am very intrigued. It would make the project go a little easier if I actually cut this in half and used one piece for one side and one piece for the other side. I have to think about that a lot because I've got the orange backing piece, but depending on where I cut this, actually I may end up doing a couple stay stitch lines here through this line, because if you can see where I've got some of these odd little triangular lines and things, will that be problematic? Will that make things look messy? I'm not sure. And again, this end was going to be gathered, so I'm not sure if I gather there in the center if I cut this. So once again, I've got options. For the other piece that I was thinking, I was just going to resume using my more orange rust. But if I can use more of this patchwork that's going to coordinate with all that, I think that would be extra cute. So we'll see. The irony, of course, is my iron was being leaky, and in this pile here of stuff, I actually have another iron. So I asked my mother if she had an iron she wasn't using, and she's like, oh my god, who irons anymore? And I said, well, I do. I have a leaky iron. And this was a few months ago. And she gave me an iron, but it's somewhere in here that I have to dig it out. I feel like that'd be making more work for myself, but I feel like it would be really cute to have a smaller, again, a smaller stripe to match that big stripe, and then this cute little patchwork triangle to match this small stripe. So we'll see. It's just, the material is great to have an abundance of material. It's just labor intensive to have to keep sewing so many seams. But we're getting there. And I did decide, I think, maybe, on how I want to use this. Which, again, I want to use it as a whole piece of material, which is going to mean more sewing. So I know what I want to use it, what I have in mind I think would be really, really adorable. Although, I guess if I go long ways, it would be easier. That would be cute. It's just, I love this black with the silver bats, and it just matches so perfectly. But I think it's going to be difficult to use if I intend to sew it. I'm not necessarily going to worry about pattern coordination and doing a little rolled seam. You will see a little bit of a seam line going through here, but maybe I will try and do some pattern matching maybe. But just this nice, again, making one sheer piece with adorable bats. Okay, this is going to be pretty awesome. Another day's work. but I just keep adding days to this project. Here is my panels that I cut off, that I have now split into and also halved with my orange stripe. So I think this might be a little too much, and it's also going to have this nice little bat ribbon to go with it, accessorized, and I think some of this orange trim, this orange ribbon, probably at the dividing point between the two. This back trim, I don't know that you're going to see for me to use it here, but we'll see. Again, I think it might be nice to have some kind of stripe border trim on all my stripes, but that's really involved, and I don't think I have enough of this orange. And if I didn't have this little bat ribbon, again, I was just going to use this orange. In fact, I thought I could be really, really sophisticated and take this orange and do a sort of X design in just some thin black ribbon, and then at each point of the X put a nice little orange bead. But I thought that's really involved and that's really elaborate for just this little small area, and I don't need to do that because I have this bat trim. I can save black ribbon for something else. This ribbon, this little weird triangular scrapped guy, and these little scarves are going to be the complement that goes with my big orange stripes. So I do have two of these scarves. One's cats. I got a whole, I'm like Mary Poppins with this little Halloween basket of stuff. Okay, one of them is bats. There we go. And one of them is witches. Black and orange witch, and I have the black and orange black cats. So I like that I can get two of these orange stripes with the horror print and the bats that relatively match. I kind of think it's neat that these are similar but different, don't match. I think that just adds to the whole kind of whimsy of the material. Like, we're using Halloween scraps, people. Let's be realistic. Let's have fun with it. It's funny, I have several of these kind of books, which, as you can see, I probably got $1 or less at the thrift store. You know, there's a lot of content online, but, you know, check your thrift shops. You know, sometimes there's all kinds of old manuals like this that have some great ideas, some great tips, and, you know, for $1, if you're worried about any kind of book space, I mean, you could cut out the pages you want and save them and throw away the rest if you wanted. So I've been going through here getting ideas that I didn't even know that I needed. Oh my god. Yes, please. Okay, there's going to be some little poor unfortunate child, aka my niece, who's going to be in these someday. Or, don't ask me why or how, but I know. I'm still fighting with this giant thing here, so hence why. Oh, Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Oh. Oh. Oh, jeez. Okay, did not know that was there. That's decidedly a little creepy. Excuse me for a minute. I get it? Oh, Jesus. Oh, good God. Did it land in my bag there somewhere? Oh. You're supposed to help with those kinds of things. I'm just saying, FYI. This, okay, goofy kind of thing, again, is not major accurate. Well, not accurate if you're worried about patterns being perfect and finite and absolutely measured. That's just not how I do it. This is a goofy pattern that I've made kind of myself. And just, this is a back bodice portion. I want to extend this on either side in order to get my back bodice piece, which, depending on this length here, I think I'm going to have front and back of my little triangular scrapped pattern pieces. So I do have to take some measures and do some calculations. I have no idea when you're going to see this video, because all my footage here is kind of out of order. I should have done this project all organized with an entire specific lineup of what I was doing when, but I did a little bit of the top, a little bit of the bottom, all at different time periods. So now I have to rearrange all my footage to fit what I've done in an organized manner. And you know, sometimes I second guess myself when I write seam allowance on a clearly crooked piece of paper. And I said I was worried about the length of that scrap Halloween pattern piece. But then I actually vaguely made a mark of where I would be having an upper mid back piece rather than a full length back piece. Okay, this is actually the front, and I have a lovely fold where I actually did mark where I wanted an empire waistline, which, of course, obviously, it may sound simple, but for somebody like me, my back piece is just going to be kind of a little smaller than my bust piece. Okay, so I have to rework these patterns that I've made of myself, that I know work, that I've made things for myself with these, because I don't want a side seam. I want the seam from the back to come up to the front, not in a princess line curve, but in that kind of princess line with my Halloween patchwork material in the center. So I need to do some calculations, and I'm not worried about my patchwork pieces with the nice bold orange stripe fitting. I'm worried about calculating how much of my orange from my roll that I'm going to have around the sides and over the shoulders. I don't mind in the front if I'm going to come down into a nice lower square neckline, but I'm not sure how much I'm going to work on the back. So I'm going to have to calculate some orange. I'll probably actually just use my orange material because I have so much, and then just that'll be my inner lining piece. So I will have to calculate that with my pattern and then actually get my shoulders together on my form. So more measuring and trial and error. Some people, they're fortunate that they can just use a commercial pattern and everything works. I'm not one of those people. So although it is time consuming to take a pattern, modify it, also drape it on a form, modify it, and then come up with a mock-up that I usually will make a fresh design copy and or also use as a lining. Now that we've moved forward in time here, to actually talk about that I actually am constructing a kind of Halloween costume. Maybe something along these lines. Obviously something much more, not historically accurate, but not so costumey. I have an empire waist, obviously, and my gathers below to make a nice full striped skirt. And we're doing this puffy sleeve with a longer slim sleeve. The sleeves generally will be last. I need to get the bodice organized of where the actual shoulder line is going to be. I probably have enough of that horror fabric to do this kind of flounce, followed by the nice little sheer bat sleeve underneath. My question with this gather here, can you even see it's so small, my camera's so goofy, or this kind of trim, I don't think, that's where I'm thinking about using some orange ribbon, because I don't think that the small black bat trim would show up. But I also actually haven't even used these patterns to actually make the thing. They're just sitting in the drawer, of course, because that would have been the sensible thing to do, right, Kbatz? To actually use the pattern. Here is more Halloween craft supplies. They are not for the Halloween project. I finally found the black mesh tubing, and the orange mesh tubing. I had been to a Dollar Tree I hadn't previously been to in a while. But now the funny thing though, these still say like they're Crafter brand, just like this one. One doesn't say Halloween or Harvest, but this tubing is just sort of a straightforward kind of braid, where the black and the orange have this kind of little extra sparkle mesh tingle, tinsel tingly type on it, which I feel looks kind of rough and messy. So I know in a previous Halloween sewing vlog video, I had said I would love to have had this kind of piping to go around that kind of hem finish, but I kind of don't like this piping. And yet I actually bought two, just in case. Because I thought, well, maybe I would still use it for something else, like a wreath or something. So they are all going in my Halloween kind of floral kind of drawer. And I already got into some of this orange glitter ribbon, which you will be seeing or have seen already, depending on when everything gets edited again here, for my Halloween mystery sewing project. I had the plain orange satin ribbon and it wasn't enough to do what I wanted to do. And then when I was in the store, I saw the glitter instead. So I'm going to use the glitter. I thought I could use all 3 rolls of the glitter, but I tried putting a needle through this, and this seems more like it is definitely craft ribbon, not necessarily so much ribbon for sewing. So I will still be using some of the plain orange satin, I think. But just again, more shine, sparkle fun. And these were 12 feet. So there's more of these on the roll than of that other orange satin ribbon. but I've already ripped into these and started making use of these. This is the orange glitter ribbon that I just purchased that I've taken completely off the spool. They're 12 feet in spool, and I was 13 inches for my hem. So it was one whole spool, and then I actually just taped on temporarily the extra that I needed. So I know my width or my length, depending on your point of view, and then I'm able to proceed. It actually measures out perfectly that I can make battery pockets in my last skull panel, which is actually the second to last panel. There's the horror panel in the back, but it really works out beautifully that basically the entire front is going to have shine. Pretty sheen, sparkle, glitter. I love that. I'm doing like 50, 11, 20 things here at once. These are the strips of the bat ribbon. There's 4 each need to be sewn together to make my lower half of my sleeve. Just a turn and a turn under. And then these are the horror panels that are part of the upper poof sleeve that need to be machine stitched and gathered. So I started to do one by hand the other day because I was sitting in my easy chair and watching a show, and I mean, while it's nice, it was just really time consuming, and again, to have to do 6 of them twice. Initially I only had, in fact, 4 pieces here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I went ahead and added the other 2 just to make it even more full, because I really wanted it to be oomphy. Is that a word? Oomphy. Sounds like the Golden Girls. Oomph-da. But the only thing about these is they may be a little long, but I've left that length for now because I'm considering when I will have to turn under my set-in or my attachment to my little bat sleeves. So I want to get these all together, and then if I have to do trimming a couple inches, that's fine. And also because I'm considering the fullness of them. So I'll decide that when I come to do my gathering. I have cut my bodice lining out of the orange. Sorry. I have my spotlight turned so I could sit in my easy chair and do my sewing, but it's leaving a shadow over here. This was out of the orange, of course, in the correct direction and position, because it is a bodice. That makes things work a little differently. This was from my standard body pattern that I had made, but I have already made some modifications. As you can see, I've done a square neckline out of this, and I have to do some basting on the sides and up at the shoulders, just to double check the fit here. And then I actually am going to cut in this middle, because that is where I want my triangular patchwork piece to be gathered across the front center. That's where I was getting more of that medieval type of look. So I'm going to have to base this, give it a few whatever trial and error try-ons and see what I think, and then actually I'm going to make a new pattern that's going to be one entire piece, where it will be a center cut bodice, sleeves, and then just collar trim work and the hem, and that'll be basically it. There's a lot of little steps in between all of those major pieces, but we're getting there. Can you hear me right now? I'm right next to the noisy machine in the basement because I rolled out my lovely orange material again. If you can see, not sure that you can see very well, the tone on tone here of my orange. This was my practice piece that's just going to become my inner lining, and I stitched the sides because I was working from a pattern I made of myself that was front and back. But of course this is going to have that patchwork piece in the center front of the bodice. So I did my side seams, but then cut my center, and I pressed my seams flat so I could lay this completely out, and for my finished piece get one whole bodice piece that's going to come around to that patchwork front that's going to be gathered nice. I thought, because that patchwork piece was so long, that I was going to be putting it on the back bodice as a front and back match, but it's a little short. I have to decide whether I'm going to have an orange border at the top and it'll only be this kind of bottom half, or vice versa, have it come all the way up to the top and then be more of the orange. But you're not going to see so much of that orange because of the tie at the back, all that back kind of gather with the waistband. The waistband may need some adjustment as well. That checkered scarf, although it's adorable, is a little delicate, so I actually may go through with some fuse tape or some twill to help back that more than just the black ribbon. But that is really the last thing, actually, the attachment of the bodice and the waistband. I've been doing this whole project kind of out of order. I feel like it's not the last minute. We're in October now, so I still have a few weeks to finish this, actually. But I probably should have done the skirt and the bodice first and then done all the little things after. Instead, the bodice is actually one of the last things that I'm doing, which is not the good way to operate. But this went very smoothly thus far, knock on wood. I didn't have any, big mistakes where I had to completely unpick and redo something just because it did something stupid, like made something backwards. When I cut this, I will, however, make my seam allowance a little wider, so that way, because these have been so delicate here with the fraying, I'm just going to cut more to allow myself a little fold and a fold again to finish around the arm side. So I have to cut this out and baste everything here in place, and I will probably be finishing the arms and the collar by hand because I have that lovely back trim. So I'm excited to see this come together. There's been a few times where I've been sick and fed up and ready to be done with it and be over with it. But at the same instance, I'm really excited to have everything come together. The lights look really adorable. However, you will notice a mistake. I started relatively at the end of my little glitter border, even though I said I wanted the lights to be centered towards the front of the skirt. So this little excess piece that I had attached to the other end when I was short, I'm actually just going to attach to this end. And then I still have this extra here, and I can make any more adjustments once I actually get placement on the tool actually. I thought that I could do a big stitch through this glitter ribbon and through the tool onto the skirt, but I don't think that's going to work. I'll be sewing blind, number one, so I won't know where to go over my wire. And this actually is more craft ribbon. I can't get a needle through, not without really ripping up and tearing it up and being really, you know, tough with it. And I don't want to do that. So yes, I am hot gluing my hem. Well, you know, I thought that having to make any kind of piecing with the hot glue would be really obvious and noticeable, but that glitter is really, really forgiving. The only thing that would make these lights more awesome is if they were flashers. I was going to do these nice and easy, faster by machine, but with my tension issues, I know, you know, I start to pull through the machine and that doesn't help. Some parts come out really nice where it's metallic, and I feel like maybe that's because it's probably more sturdy fabric rather than the loose netting. So with my loose tension and my loose netting, I mean, it looks nice, but on the outside, I'm not sure if it shows up on camera, but I feel like you can see some of those little bubbly little loose threads. So I'm just going to do this by hand. I've already gathered I've machine sewn the larger pieces, just turning these seams under. But this I guess I'm going to have to do by hand, which is going to take me a little longer. It's taken a few hours by hand, what would have taken maybe a half hour if I'd gone by machine. These are my lower inner sleeves, and these are really cute. I love that they kind of have a little bit of shape to them, just because this was sort of a netted ribbon. It's ironic here, where I should be sewing, I used hot glue here on my tool and my lights, and here where it would seem like I should use glue, I did some sewing. So I actually finished my cuff, and I did a nice little seam down here at the elbow where this sleeve will end, and these are my poof sleeve panels that need to be gathered and finished off. So almost done the sleeves. Took a day to do the sleeves. I still have to finish the bodice lining, and I think that with all this fancy draping that's going to happen with these scarves just kind of hanging down from the shoulder, I don't think I'm going to use the orange ribbon after all. This will probably just be stitched at the shoulder and then have another stitch at the corner where it could kind of come up in the hand, or it could just drape freely. So that seemed like it would be a little too busy. If I had another layer of even more ribbon, as much as this is all patchwork and catch-all, it's all meant to go together. It's not meant to look kind of so busy that your eye doesn't know where to look. So I've been worried about spending the money. I spent a whopping $6 to make sure that I had enough ribbon and tulle and just a couple of the little extras that I picked up at the dollar store. So embellishments, I feel like, can make or break a project, but sometimes maybe it's too much. You can scale it back a little bit. So all the extra that I was worried about, making sure that there were a little fancier things, actually maybe simple is best, to let some of just the big iconography here stand out. So I have to edit all of this footage. I'm not really sure where the footage is right now. The sleeves are done. I've actually kind of done these backwards, where I made the smaller fitted sleeve first, completely finished the lining, or not the lining, the lines on it, all the seams and the edges. Then I did my big sleeves, and I did the gather at the elbow, and then I've done a loose gather stitch here, which is going to go into my bodice. I have to set that in. I left this a little big, and I've left a little space on my bodice around the shoulder, so hopefully they'll all fit. If I have to make some kind of gore or change around this kind of gather just to make adjustments and fit, that's actually kind of a minor thing. I expected there to be problems once I turned these right side out, but they came out wonderfully, beautifully. I love that these just retain their shape. I thought about lining them, but I just love the kind of crinkly, kind of sheer look to them. These are really great and puffy. I thought that they would be a little big, but they're kind of over the top just right. That looks like a face hugger right there, man. Oh gosh. And it